Thank you for joining us for another episode of Real Estate Chat with ESV Olalekan Aboderin. This is a production of REST Publication, otherwise known as Real Estate Services and Transaction. As we know, it's a subsidiary of Reals Academy Limited. My name is Oluwafemi Sanusi, and I'm so excited that you're able to join us for another episode. In the house, we have ESV Olalekan Aboderin, is the lead advisor of Olalekan Aboderin Consulting, a firm of estate surveyors and valuers. He's also the director of studies of Reals Academy Limited, a real estate, or should I say, professional real estate training center here in Lagos, Nigeria. Sir, thank you very much for joining us for another episode.
Yeah, thank you, Femi. Thank you, dear followers and viewers. It's a pleasure being with you once again. Maybe a quick one. We parade ourselves as Center for Professional Real Estate Development.
That's correct.
Reals Academy is a Center for Professional Real Estate Development.
Exactly.
It's actually a training center.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So flowing from our previous episode, we got a number of feedbacks, okay, and there are a lot of other things that I wanted us to talk about, because we use some terminologies that I know that quite a number of our viewers might not understand. So for today, we're going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about some other instances of under mortgage property. So I'm going to start on this note, which was how we ended last episode, is on the challenges of mortgage property. So I want us to start on that.
Okay. Challenges of mortgage properties. That is looking at what the buyer or investors could face. Last week, we discussed about the prospects. But there is nothing that has prospects that will not have problems.
That's correct.
So there are some challenges here and there. But more importantly, the aspect of the challenges of mortgage property is in the aspect of ensuring that it's safe to buy the property. Being safe to buy the property is not limited to due diligences that have to be done on the property itself that is to be bought. It goes to the extent of the right to sell.
Okay.
The right to sell. Whether it's the mortgagor that is selling or the mortgagee that is selling. That is, whether it's the owner of the property who has mortgaged property that is selling, or is the receiving, that's the bank that is to sell. An investor who is to buy a mortgage property should ensure that he bought safe. The right to sell must have arisen. It must have emerged, particularly where is the bank that is selling. Because the notion is once a mortgage is ever a mortgage. That means a mortgage is not an assignment.
Okay.
It does not empower or transfer right to sell to the mortgagee until that power becomes mature. And that power will not become mature until certain conditions are met. So, on that note, the major challenges that the buyer of such property or investor will have is the exposure to risk of foiling the transaction. That transaction can be foiled. And that is where the challenges are, because the mortgagor could choose to go to court and challenge the sales. And it happens everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of other redresses that courts can grant, but one of it is that they can equally foil that transaction if the right to sell has not matured. So, primarily, the challenges around it, one is the risk of that transaction become foilable.
Okay.
Two is the taking possession of the property. So maybe when we get to processes, we'll be discussing more about that. Taking possession of the mortgage property, in some cases, is always a problem for the buyer to actually access the property and take possession. It's not funny that AMCOM today is having a lot of challenges about, the toxic assets transferred to AMCOM, by all these banks, because in some cases, in fact, there is confirmation that AMCON could not even assess some properties because most of our colleagues work for them. So not to talk of, so if anybody is buying, it's part of the processes that we'll be discussing. Because all these challenges, there are processes to follow. When the buyer follows these processes, it's going to reduce the exposure to the challenges. So having access to take possession of the property is another major challenge. Then another challenge, taking the possession, particularly where the asset is highly tenanted.
That's correct, yes.
So in that wise, it behoves the investor to put all these things into considerations and ensure that measures are put in place at the time of transacting when it's a mortgaged property. Then equally, to ensure, another challenge will be ensuring effective transfer of title to the buyer. There could be that challenges where proper due diligences and processes are not done at the time of transacting on a mortgaged property. So these are issues that we will discuss and focus on them because incidentally all these challenges, all these processes and due diligences varies. You know, you have different circumstances of a mortgaged property. And each of them requires different processes when you are to transact with them. So we'll be discussing all those ones. But principally, in terms of challenges, the transaction could end in court because the mortgagor could choose to go to court and challenge the sales. And if he's lucky, the transaction can be voided. And there are conditions that can make it possible. And in some cases where the bank might be asked to pay probably maybe regarding the price and things like that. Then possession, ensuring that challenges of possession could emerge if caution is not exercised at the time of transacting. And there could be a problem of having effective transfer of title to the purchaser.
All right, thank you, sir. So moving on, terminologies that you used the last time. I want you to just explain in very clear terms what equity of redemption is and what foreclosure is.
Okay, thank you. Equity of redemption. Today I've mentioned again that once a mortgage is ever a mortgage.
That's correct.
What that means is that the mortgagor has not alienated by way of sales or assignment to the mortgagee. That's to the bank. Right? It's only an encumbrance. It's only a pledge. It's only that the bank has a claim. Not that he reserves the right to sell. So now, what makes once a mortgage to be a mortgage is what we call equity of redemption. Equity of redemption implies the rights of the mortgagor to redeem that property by paying
back the loan.
So he reserves that rights, right? With that anchors his interest. It's a reflection of that property to him.
It comes back to
it comes back to him. So that is equity of redemption. That equity of redemption is of value to the mortgagor. In fact, it can equally be used as what we call second mortgage. Yes, there can be second mortgage. The property could have been mortgaged, and that same property still remortgaged. Without being fraudulent about it. What the second mortgage will be mortgage of equity of redemption. That is, second mortgage will not be a mortgage placed on the value of its right to redeem, which is the equity of redemption. So there can be subsequent mortgage. First mortgage and subsequent mortgage. Subsequent mortgage will be on that right. That is that equity of redemption. So in a nutshell, equity of redemption reserves the right of the mortgagor to redeem his property back by paying up the mortgage loan. And when it does that, the property will be released back to him. And without any encumbrances, he holds the property as if mortgage has never existed on it. That is equity of redemption. Now, talking about foreclosure. Now, foreclosure is the right of the bank or the mortgagee, finance institution, and what have you, who had granted loan
Okay.
And has obtained collateral as mortgage property now, is a right that he reserves. And foreclosure implies extinguishing.
Okay.
Right? That is, what plain language can I use? Removing.
Okay.
Neutralizing.
Okay.
That right of equity of the redemption.
Okay.
And the only process of doing that is to go to court. The only process to do that is to go to court. The mortgagee will now have to sue the mortgagor, file a case against the mortgagor about the mortgage property to foreclose the mortgage property. Foreclosure there, the moment the case is heard and that plea is upheld and the court gives judgment, then that will extinguish the right of the mortgagor, which is the equity of redemption, is going to terminate it. And the ownership automatically will be vested in the bank. Bank assumes the position as if that property had been sold ab initio to the bank. So the mortgagor will not have any claim whatsoever on that property again. And the bank can choose to sell the property anytime they choose to do so, allowing reasonable time on market.
Okay. So
that they can optimize the value. Again, they can choose to keep the property for their use. They can exercise every right that a proprietor of a right in land can exercise.
Okay.
The moment they foreclose. So foreclosure extinguishes the right of equity of redemption of the mortgagor.
Okay.
And the process of obtaining that is through courts.
Okay.
You have to go to court.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me give an example now of an individual who owns a company and he wants to secure a loan from the bank. So can he, for personal reasons, he wants to take a loan from the bank, can he use the asset of the company to stand as collateral? Or let me give another instance that maybe he has a property and he wants to secure a loan on behalf of his company. Can he use his personal asset to stand as collateral?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. That's a case of some of other instances where you have tripartite.
Exactly.
Tripartite
exactly.
Mortgage. That's correct. If it's an individual that has property, he wants to increase the capital base of his company, or they have an assignment to do, but the company does not have assets to serve as collateral for the loan.
Okay.
The individual, as a director or as the owner of the property of the company, who owns a property in his own name, he is the registered proprietor of the property.
Okay.
Can pledge that property as security to collateralize the loan that the company wants to get. Company becomes the mortgage, the lender.
Okay.
Sorry, the borrower.
Okay.
He becomes the mortgagor. So is the third party there. Okay. Because company is an entity in law.
That's correct.
Just like any other individual. He is an entity in law as an individual person. Yeah. The bank that wants to grant the loan is an entity in law, right? So given that, he will now be the one to sign a tripartite deed of mortgage in favor of the bank for his company.
Okay.
So, and vice versa, as in the case where the company has property he does not have, right? Is to get loan, and is the owner of the company.
Okay.
But because the proprietor in the title, in the title to the property is in the name of the company. Okay. He cannot sign in his name using that property as collateral in his name. Okay. If he has to do that, it will be a tripartite deed of mortgage. Even if he's still the one that is the director that has controlling share that can execute that tripartite deed of mortgage. In that situation, he'll be executing in the capacity of being the owner or director of the company. The tripartite deed of mortgage will be in the name of that company and the bank and he himself as borrower. Okay. So those are two other circumstances where tripartite mortgage can emerge. Okay. And it's very common.
Let me continue. So I think of this now. Let's say I have a family land. Okay. And I, as a member of that family, decide that I want to use my property as a loan. Can
property or family's property?
Family's property. Can tripartite mortgage come in that instance?
Yeah, it depends. If it's a property, a family property that is titled, that has title.
Okay.
That's number one. If it does not have title, it's not a bankable asset. So if it's a property that has title, in the name and it belongs to the family.
Okay.
If you are the one to get the loan and you are not, if that title is in the name of the family, even if you are a signatory, it's going to be a tripartite mortgage.
Okay.
Because Femi Sanusi is different from Sanusi families.
That's correct.
The title is reading Sanusi families.
Okay.
You as Olufemi Sanusi, you are to get the loan.
Okay.
But you don't have anything to collateralize the loan. You want to fall back to the property of
the family.
Sanusi's family.
Yeah.
Right? Now, even let's say that among the signatory that can execute that deed, you are one of them.
Okay.
It's still a tripartite mortgage.
Okay.
Because it's Sanusi family that is now guaranteeing that mortgage transaction for Olufemi Sanusi.
Okay.
I hope that is clear.
Very.
So it's going to be a tripartite
mortgage. Okay. So, in the words of Enando Zesonto, when you said something about debt capital, that if a property does not have a title, that means it's as good as a dead asset.
Dead assets.
So, flowing from that simply means that only properties that have titles can stand as collateral.
That's correct. If it does not, we have title that we are talking about. We say legal title.
Legal title.
Only property with legal title is bankable. It's one that can be used as collateral. Unless, for whatever reasons, the bank want to take the risk, or for whatever reason, maybe under personal guarantee or all other conditions, they say we are accepting. That without legal title, a property is not bankable. Other option the bank will exercise is to say, okay, there is a valid client, is this, is that, we don't want to lose this transaction. Can the title be processed in the course of these transactions? Is it safe? They do all the assessment, then they might take the risk, but it's a very great exposure. I mean, it's a risk that bank will not want to do. So is an asset with legal title that is suitable for mortgage. And that means it's the only one that is bankable. And that's what the Soto said. You know. So, and for us, even for purpose of placing value on the asset, of course, we need to examine what interest it conveys, it has, and see what type of title. In my practice, for example, if a property does not have legal title, I will ask for indemnity from the client before I can value it for mortgage. Because deep down in me, I know it's not bankable.
That's correct.
So I will first of all advise, sorry, you can use this as collateral. So we would rather decline giving you our valuation report. But if the client now insists, fine, then give us indemnity. Because we know that it's not bankable. So and that is why it's a debt capital. It's a debt capital because that financial leverage, you cannot generate it.
That's correct.
It's a serious loss. So it's good. It's safer for viewers. Go and perfect your title. It will not take much.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what ESV Olaliko always says, that make sure you register your title.
It's very important so that you enjoy security of that title. Right? Government has witnessed to your interest. You have met up with the statutory requirements of having a property. Then you can it becomes a bankable, asset.
Yes.
And apart from getting loan, you can use it as security to collateralize getting job. And so a lot of things that can be done with it. So we always advise viewers to ensure that they process their title and ensure that they have well-structured assets so that they can optimize the use of that asset. And that will liberate Nigeria economy. I'm so passionate about that.
Yeah.
That will liberate our economy because it's going to liberate individuals' economy.
That's correct, yeah.
So when it does that, then it would liberate Nigeria economy.
Exactly, yes.
So it's very important for investors in real estate. And as I always say, everybody is an investor in real estate.
That's correct.
It's always important for investors in real estate to understand this issue of getting title, and now it will serve you good if you obtain title. And equally understand what it is when you are to mortgage transaction, to mortgage property, or when you are to transact regarding mortgage property. I think in our future episodes, we'll be discussing more about all these processes that have to be done. Buying mortgage properties can be very, very sweet and rewarding.
That's correct.
I've enjoyed that in the past. Yes, and I still look forward to enjoying such because when I have investor that says, "Sorry, I cannot get so return." If the return is what the market in at arm's length cannot support, I look towards buying mortgage property.
Yeah.
Right there, you enjoy discount. Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This has been an exciting episode. I've had a nice time, and I'm sure you all have also had a nice time and learned so much about mortgage property. So we look forward to seeing you again next time. So until then, continue to stay safe. Bye bye from me, and God bless everyone.